everybody. It's great to be here. I'll just
We
put
really
my water
appreciate
down
that
there.
you stick around.
I know, and if
Really.
anyone wants to come a bit closer, it would be nice to have some friends here. So, I'm Helen Freeman, and I'm director of Oxford Children's Books, and this is Benny Arbel, who is CEO of InceptionXR. And today we're going to be doing a double act. Between us, hopefully, we can give you some interesting information to share. But first of all, a short history lesson. So way back, cast your minds back to the 1800s, and this is what a classroom might have looked like. Loads of kids, sat formal, stuffy, serious learning, kids in rows of desks, teachers front of class, everyone paying attention. If we fast forward to the 1970s, which is my era, and my primary classroom definitely looked like this, not all that much has changed. There's still students sat in desks, row upon row of kids, all sat doing their work, paying attention. But, thank goodness by 2022, it's completely changed. Except, of course, it hasn't changed. And actually, if we go into classrooms and schools around the world, we'll see that there are still lots of children sat in lines, teacher front of class, paying attention. Why are we still doing it this way? Is it because it's the very best way to learn, is it? Or is it because we're still ripe for a change? So why is it when the world around us has really shifted, there's so much going on in our lives in the digital space, why is it that education's not really moving on? It's kind of stayed the same. A clue might be the amount that we're investing in digital. So education, big sector, and yet we're only investing 4% compared to something like banking that's investing 30%. And then how about the massive gap between education and our consumer experiences? So in consumer life, in our personal lives, kids are completely switched on. As the grown-ups, we're switched on, we're in touch with digital all the time. Children have grown up swiping screens, touching screens, talking to devices and expecting them to talk back. And yet, when they go to school, they're supposed to forget all of that cool stuff and just go back into the classroom and sit in row upon row of desks. And what about Zoom? So in our very recent memories, we've had a couple of years of being dependent on Zoom and Teams and creating a virtual classroom. But we didn't really use digital to innovate. We used digital to replicate and recreate that same formal classroom structure. And the really sad thing is that as a result of this, we've seen grades have been falling, and we've seen so much lost learning through the last couple of years. So I don't think that we can say that Zoom is the answer. And when it comes to grade attainment, we know that teachers are really motivated about kids' learning outcomes, and they want the very best for their students. But actually, if they can't use some of the cool tools that are out there, teachers are going to feel quite disappointed that they can't stay true to their promise of educating children. And I think more than that, remember, teachers are also consumers, so they're using all the cool tech in their personal lives, and then they're meant to go into work, and none of that stuff exists there. Is that going to help our profession to grow? Is it going to help teachers be really motivated to become teachers? A real reason to change. There's a social and economic imperative to this as well. We know, because we review the studies from the National Literacy Trust, that children who've grasped good reading skills by the age of 7, they go on to have better housing, better job prospects, and just do better as a result of that, including higher earning potential. We know from NLT studies too that people who are engaged in, or children who are engaged in reading and writing, they have far better mental health. And then, shockingly, there's also a study that has revealed that those people with good literacy levels have greater life expectancy. So there's a lot to be thinking about with those stats. Access to books is really fundamental, but actually nowadays there's still thousands and thousands of children who have never had a book of their own. And this is really important. We know that access to books is a game changer. We know that children who have access to books are 6 times more likely to be reading above the level for their age and stage of learning. We know they're 3 times more likely to enjoy reading, and we know that kids who enjoy reading get better education outcomes. So what can we do, Benny? How can we help? Ooh, sorry.
So what are we going to do about this? So Helen, you talked before about the gap between consumer and school content, right? So we asked ourselves at Inception, what if kids did not need to choose between the content that they consume in their consumer lives on digital devices, like games and social networks that they find really exciting and inspiring, and the content, the important content that they get in school that they often find boring and uninspiring? What would it take for them to enjoy the best of both worlds? What would it look like? So here are some of the ingredients that we think are key for this. It has to be interactive. You want them to lean forward. You want them to be engaged. It has to be rich, great XR content that comes from the world-leading content providers, such as yourselves, and brands that kids love and admire. It has to be gamified. And you need pedagogic input that tells us what it is that kids need learning and how to go about that. So XR, we feel, needs to be a big part of this, but why is that? It's an odd question, to ask in a forum like this, because all of us feel that XR is great pretty much everywhere, right? But it's actually a more complicated question in the world of education, because you need to prove efficacy. You need to show that it's actually contributing and creating an uplift in clear learning outcomes, and then it's not just about fun and the coolness factor. So why is XR important? We're going to show a few examples in the next few slides and some data points that I think will prove that XR is creating an uplift in learning. But still remains the question, why is it so important? And there are some very important neurological reasons. So there are different ways that the brain learns, and obviously, different people think differently and their brain works differently. The great news is that interactive XR works great for all of these ways, whether it's about touching or visualizing or exploring. XR is really important, in all of these. XR is a great way to learn about complicated concepts and to promote independent learning, for the child to really be immersed in that. So we've taken all of these elements and we've created the leading AR reading app for kids. It's focusing on 3 to 9. It's called Bookful. It's been live now for 2 years. At the heart of the experience is a massive library with over 500 books across fiction and reference, divided into categories and reading levels. We're adding dozens of books every month. The idea is to connect kids to books, help their understanding of books, get them excited about the content of the books and the subject matters. And this is what it looks like. This is what is our format for AR reading. Couple of examples here. So you do not need a physical book. You don't need a print book. You lay the digital book in front of you on your desk or floor. You can swipe the page, and every time you swipe the page, the scene comes to life all around you in a great animated format. There's lots of reading features. You can have it read to you or read it yourself, or have your grandparent read it and then you listen to it before you go to sleep. With one click, there's translation and dictionary. And here's an example that I like a lot. Boris Goes Camping, actually by Oxford University Press. As you can see, the child can swipe back and forward like you would with a print book, really helping their develop their fundamental skills. For younger children, really important to develop language before they can become good readers, right? So with this format, they can repeatedly listen to the story through the narration, read the words, And that really improves their language skills and improve the way their comprehension of the story. For older kids, it's a great way to immerse yourself in the story. It improves comprehension, improves expression. And with Bookful, every book is surrounded by a host of activities, fun and educational activities. So there's, for every book, you have there's a spelling, and there's a pronunciation of the words you've just learned from the book. You can, I'll show you in a minute, paint and dance the characters of the book. You can enter the world of the book in an AR meets VR experience, 360. You walk around and you actually immerse yourself there and you feel what it's like to be there. There's a quiz that asks you what just happened or what do you think will happen next. So with all of these activities, the kids really immerse themselves and engage with the book and get really excited about it. This is one of our favorite little activities here. You paint the character of the book. It was black and white. You now paint it in your own colors, and then it comes to life in 3D, and then it comes to life in AR in your surrounding, and you can take a selfie with it. You can take a picture of your friends and family. Kids love this, and this activity exists for each of the characters in all of the hundreds of books. Another one that I like, dance. You dance with your favorite character of the book, again in AR, coming to life all around you. Very cool stuff. So Bookful was a hit, is a hit. It has over 1 million users, several tens of thousands of paying subscribers, great retention and engagement KPIs. So kids read 17 books on average every month. More than half of the kids go back to the app more than once a week. And remember, this is an app that they're not being told to use. It's an app by school. It's an app that they chose to use. It's getting great reviews in the App Store. But most importantly, every day we would get a letter from a teacher or a parent that say, hey, this is the first time that my child is reading, the first time that I see him actually using the phone for something productive. But we decided to take this a step further and to check scientifically whether there's really efficacy here and real learning outcomes as a result of using Bookful. So we commissioned a study with a cognitive neurobiologist, world-leading cognitive neurobiologist, to run a test. It was a randomly controlled test, as they do in education, comparing two groups of kids. So one group was given Bookful for a few months, and the other group was using another educational app, and we looked at the difference between these two groups over time. And the results were amazing. Significant uplift in expression, particularly expressive vocabulary. But most importantly, comprehension of books, of course, but most importantly in the attachments of kids to books and in how excited they got about reading and how they continue to read after the test, not just Bookful, but also print books. Also very positive response from parents on how they see this as a super productive screen time. So we learned that this is work, but we ask ourselves what's next. And we turn to our friends at Oxford to see what next.
Thank you. So it's probably worth saying a little bit about who Oxford University Press are. We're the largest university press in the world. We have been printing for over 500 years, so I'm feeling very old relative to some of the cool tech that I'm seeing over the last couple of days. We're mission driven, so we're absolutely committed to improving the lives of learners. We've got this huge history of looking at how children learn, how they digest information, and how this can make their lives better. You can also see on the screen a rather impressive building. That is actually my office that I work in Oxford. Beautiful, impressive arches that I walk through. But behind that building is also an equally impressive history of, and we wouldn't still be here had we not learned to adapt through the passage of time. And it's that adaptation that is telling us that there's a need for innovation in the education space. And it's why we're really interested in our collaboration with Inception. So Our collaboration with Inception started with Bookful, and you can see on the screen some of our really lovely children's books. And the way this started is these books went into Bookful and they were converted into the really lovely, rich, immersive experiences that you've just seen. So really exciting for us as publishers to see those reading experiences coming to life. We know too that, due to the point around access and the importance of access to books, that digital reading plays a really important part, because those children that have access to books, they read way more on screen, but also off screen, which is really important. We know too that all those kids who say that they can't stand reading and they're not interested in reading, when you take a book and put it in digital format, all of a sudden they love reading. And then aside from that, a really important factor for us is that we know that for students from disadvantaged backgrounds, being able to access books digitally can be a game changer, because remember, lots of children don't own a single book of their own. So I'd like to just show you a couple of examples here. So this is a book called Dive, and the cool thing about this is that students get to be fully immersed, literally, in a submarine, and they take a deep dive under the ocean. They can explore all the fish that are under there. They can hear the sounds. They see the changes in the light. And what a brilliant way to learn. And the students in the driving seat, they're looking at the instruments in front of them, and they're really kind of fully involved and engaged in that learning. What an exciting way to bring learning to life. In this next example, similarly, students can go on this wonderful exploration. They can sit around a campfire, they can hear the crackle of the fire and the twinkle of the fireflies. And there's this 10 by 10 meter radius where students can wander around, walk amongst the trees, again, completely immersed and in the driving seat of their learning. So they can explore, they've got the torchlight, they can look up in the sky, they can look between the trees, and then they find the telescope. And they can go and peep through the telescope and up into the night sky, and they can learn about the stars and planets, and again, what a cool way to learn. But Bookful for us was really just the beginning, and I guess we saw then that as something that could help with reading for pleasure. But we want to take things to the next level now, and we think that there's a really exciting opportunity to use XR for more formal, structured, and curriculum-based learning. So we're keen to expand our collaboration, and we want to be able to reach new audiences and new age groups. And I'm really excited to share that we are working on a joint Oxford-branded XR learning experience. And I can't share too much right now, other than to say it's very exciting, and we will be sharing as soon as we possibly can. What this might look like is a reinvention of a traditional workbook. So on the left here, you can see there's a traditional workbook page where in a traditional learning context, the child might take a marker pen and circle the sphere. And on the right, you can see the Inception experience and how this brings to life the learning. And the student can explore the space, they're searching for the sphere, they get it right. But another time they might not. And it's just, the child's in charge of the learning. So, which would you rather do? And in this example, which I absolutely love, because I did not learn prime numbers this way, on the left-hand side, there's an activity designed to teach a student about prime numbers. And on the right, you can see how this learning is brought to life with an exciting racetrack roaring through your lounge room, and the student has to basically capture the prime numbers on the race cars. Again, which would you rather do? And then in this example, you can see how on the left, there's a traditional book experience, still really lovely and full of learning and facts and information. But on the right-hand side, the student can step into this wonderful interactive museum experience with sounds and sights and areas that you can explore and kind of be in the driving seat on your learning. So, yeah, that's kind of where we've got to so far. But people are always asking, like, what's the future of education, and what should we tell them?
That it's a great question. Is it going to be metrics style? You know, you download, you remember when Neo downloaded Kung Fu, within seconds he knew all about Kung Fu. I don't think this is going to happen in our lifetime, still too far away. But we do completely believe in the vision of metaverse. We think that kids will learn about ancient Rome by actually walking in ancient Rome with other students from all over the world, with teachers. Teachers will be really important in that scenario also. What a great way to learn. So this will come, but it's years away. We know that, even in this conference. The hardware is not there. And also when it comes to, even when the consumer market is ready, when it comes to integrating these technologies into the educational market, this is a completely different ballgame. We're talking about a very conservative gatekeepers and very complex operational and other hurdles to go through. So this is still years away. What I would argue is that we need an evolution, not a revolution. We need to start taking steps, continue to take the steps that we're taking now to improve education through the technologies that are available for us today. So here are some of the ingredients that we think would make sense.
So I think the first thing we need to do is actually commit to our ongoing collaboration and taking the very best of InceptionXR's cool technology and blend that with a global market-leading education brand and our cool IP. And I think that collaboration is going to really help.
It's good news, we're already doing this, right? Secondly, as I said, we need to utilize the existing technologies. So headsets are amazing and we're building content for headsets, but we need to focus on the billion mobile devices that are here today and are AR supported and can provide, as we've just seen, amazing learning experiences that will create real engagement, real uplift with learning for kids. So let's utilize the existing technologies and let's start speaking the Inception language. Let's combine all these different elements. XR is super important, but it's not the only element. You need different elements there. It needs to be interactive, it needs to be gamified, and you need content from the best content creators out there. So, are you optimistic about the future?
I feel really optimistic about the future. And I think if we can succeed of conquering digital's final frontier, I really think that we're going to see kids are going to be racing back to the classroom, fully immersed in their learning. I think that teachers are going to love teaching again and be really motivated about their learners' outcomes. And I think more than that, I think we'll end up with a more productive, healthier, happier society as a result of this.
I agree. And the great news is that all the ingredients exist today. So let's make the most out of them. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So we should have left 5 minutes for Q&A. We have 5 and 3 seconds.
We are spot on.
Yes. Any questions, anyone? Yes, we have 5 minutes for questions.
What age do you think that you would start incorporating these kids into XR learning?
So, with mobile devices, there is no minimal age like you have with headsets. That's another reason to use mobile devices. So we're thinking Bookful is anywhere from the age of 3. Our new collaboration is going to be around that same area, hopefully, preschool, right?
I'm hoping.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, kids start using phones and devices at the age of 2 or 3 today, so I think anywhere from 3 would make sense.
I would probably just add to that as well that from an education point of view, we're always really interested in how adults might blend, the things that they use. You do it fairly naturally. So, you can have an XR experience, but there are also things you do in the real world. So it's about having a really great blend.
Yep.
I think I kind of want to go back to being a kiddo again so I can experience it from that angle, but I think it'll be fun with the grandkids as well. What is the plan for getting the technology out more broadly? How do you reach students? How do you get the capability out to them?
How do we make, the sound isn't great, how do we make the technology available to them?
Is how do you expand the growth so that more children are using the applications?
Well, I mean, in terms of Oxford University Press, we've already got fantastic reach into schools, fantastic reach to parents. I mean, we have a global parent platform that is freely available. It means that there's lots of information there for parents to point them in the right direction. We also collaborate with like school library associations. We'll network with whomever we can in order to raise awareness, sometimes working with charities, sometimes looking for a network that can help with distribution. So, I mean, it depends on what the opportunity is. So.
I agree, and what I would add to that is that there's another important set of players here in the ecosystem, which are the telcos and the device manufacturers. So telcos have cooperated with us a lot for Bookful. We work very closely with AT&T here in the US, with China Telecom, LG, many others, and they're looking for two things. They're looking for productive screen time that they can show their customers that they help with that as well. And it's not just about games and videos for kids. And they're also looking for a use case for 5G. And this content works great with 5G. 5G will do to XR what 4G has done for video streaming and 3G has done for apps. So, with their help and with the help of device manufacturers that want to show, how their latest technologies work, we think we'll get to a lot of people.
So I absolutely love what you presented here and kind of the direction that you're going with it. Wanted to ask a question tied in with more rural communities that haven't been or really don't have access to typical education, and might be smaller 1,000, 2,000 people communities that they're growing up there, they're staying there, they're never going to move from there. So different types of education is needed. What are your thoughts on applications in those types of group? Are there opportunities that you have thought about or you might see?
You mean in terms of accessibility and democratization?
Yeah, and really more content creation. More content creation, tied in with relevance to where they're at.
Well, I mean, I guess it would be a case of understanding the particular use case to be able to think about how you can use different content in those settings. If it's about access in terms of reach, then similar kind of answer than I gave before. It's finding the right partners to work with so that you can make that content and those experiences accessible. So it depends on those sort of distribution partners, I guess.
Hi, I was very impressed with the quality of the animations and the designs. That's amazing. My kid is dyslexic, and I wanted to know if you have any learnings or studies or an approach on how this works with dyslexic kids.
So we've learned that it works particularly well with dyslexic kids. We don't have the research to support it yet, but we often get, again, both letters and references from parents that say that this has made a tremendous difference. But also requests from different schools for kids with special needs that, where we're asking for licenses for this, and we're obviously providing them. This is something that I think it's a really interesting and important direction that we as Inception will continue to develop and find, the exact changes that we need to make in the product to make it even work better for them. But we know that as it is, it's already working really well.
And from an Oxford point of view, we have a part of our business called Oxford Impact. So we're really interested in running efficacy studies. I think there's kind of everything to play for there in terms of some of the things that we're working on. So, and of course, as being the press for Oxford University, we've got access to lots of research. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how children read differently and how they learn differently in digital and print formats.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're now being told that we're out of time. Thank you very much for sticking in here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.